Do you like movies and games also? Listen, so much more they all know. Vyse, Pyro, Lotus and friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 45, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I'm your host, VyseTheBold, and this is
Lotus Prince.
And PyroJackFrost.
The OG group back together again.
I'm no longer fired from visiting my mother.
That's right.
Old man Stompy has been stomped out for now.
Yeah, I was about to say permanently for a week.
Seriously, though, he is watching something he will be talking about next week. He will be talking about the most recent WWE pay-per-view.
WWE.
Why would you?
There's two W's.
What's so impressive about viewing paper?
It's paper. You can create shadow
At a loss
puppets
for
with
words. It was so dumb, he had no clue what to say.
He was great.
I'm stupefied. But anyway, so why don't we go on and get this show rolling?
All right. So I have 2 weeks, I guess, kind of, to catch up with. The first is the usual Persona 5 catch-up. So the good thing about this conversation now is I'm actually, quote-unquote, nearing the end. I have been finishing up a lot of things at work, so I was able to take a day on Thursday and get a lot in. So in terms of how far I am, it's kind of hard. Story-wise, I have only 3 dungeons left. I've completed 5 or 6, depending on what you count as a dungeon. And yeah, so I'm almost done with the story. I have, like I said, 3 dungeons, 2 months of in-game time left. But in terms of all the other stuff going on, all my social stats are maxed. I have 11 out of the 21 confidants max, which are this game's social links.
Nice.
And out of the 10 that I'm missing, only 4 of them are really ones that that are not story related. So the other 6 happen just from going through the story and completing the dungeons. So it's I'm pretty good with that. I've had lots of time.
Are you still enjoying it just as thoroughly?
I would say yes. It's Persona.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like if I can continue at the rate I'm going at, I probably won't finish next week, but definitely the week after. Then the other game I've been playing. So actually, I started playing on my Vita again, and I was wondering what game to play, and I was looking at the games that I got for free through PS Plus. And one of them was Virtue's Last Reward. If you're unaware, this is one of the Zero Escape games. It's the sequel to 9 Doors, 9 People, 9 Hours, or whatever it's called. And the prequel to, I believe it's called Zero Time Dilemma.
Yeah, Zero Time Dilemma.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, it's also by the same people who made Danganronpa, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, Danganronpa actually has a little nod to them. If you get like all the Monokuma coins, like 99, there's like a 999 nod. Yeah. So I have a mixed feelings about this game. I know Old Man Stompy's talked about them before, and I'm pretty sure I remember him saying he really enjoyed them. And I actually enjoy the gameplay, because the gameplay is kind of like an escape room game. So each of the rooms that you get to, there's puzzles you have to solve to get out of the room. And the overarching plot is actually really interesting, because you basically have to play through the game multiple times to actually see what's going on and understand everything, and picking different options each time. But the writing and the characters are hard. I don't like them that much. So the writing feels like, one, they talk about a topic more than they need to. Basically, they take 10 lines of dialogue to say something they could have said in 2 or 3. That's one thing that's annoying. 2 is the character's personality. So, as an example, there are times when you have to choose, like, if you're siding with someone or not siding with them.
And in one playthrough, you might side with them, and another playthrough, you might side against them. But the personality seems to change depending on which options you pick, which doesn't make any sense. I feel like their personality should be the same no matter which options you're picking. Like, they should change their responses based on your options, but not their whole personality, which is really obnoxious. Also, the writing sometimes feels like it was written by not an adult. I mean, someone who doesn't know how to explain things, and a lot of personalities, like a lot of dammits and shits, and like a lot of dialogue,
like over cursing.
Yeah, dialogue that doesn't even seem necessary.
Well, that reminds me of Mother Russia Bleeds, where it's just gratuitous swearing. And it's like, I get it, it's rated M for mature. You don't have to like prove it to me.
Yeah, so it's not like, it seems just childish too. Not I wouldn't necessarily say it's too much like adolescent humor, but it just feels childish at times. But the gameplay itself and the overarching plot is keeping me going. But I feel like the little things kind of annoy me, which kind of sucks because I really like Danganronpa, and I don't feel like the dialogue in that game was nearly as bad. So it disappoints me about that. And also considering this is the sequel, so if I go back to 999, which I haven't played, I'm wondering if it's going to be just as bad. But
I like 999 quite a bit.
Yeah, is that also escape room, or like each of are those escape rooms also?
Yeah. So you go in there and you have to get through a puzzle. You know, kind of like I don't know, like Myst or something like that, but not nearly as obtuse as Myst.
Okay.
I mean, what is?
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much that entire series is based around an escape the room kind of
okay.
thing.
Like Danganronpa is all based on the whole courtroom case kind of thing.
Yeah, and also the clue finding. Those two things. But this is based primarily around logic puzzles generally. And they can be a little it can be
obtuse.
No, not obtuse. I guess the thing is, I feel like some of the puzzles don't fit the tone of the story that's being told. Kind of like Professor Layton sometimes like pops up with.
So it's jarring a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. It like I feel like there could be something better there, like kind of like a Saw kind of situation to figure out or something like that, like a life or death situation. But the puzzles are very much like they're kind of like the same kind of puzzles that like in Die Hard 3 they had to
That's
solve,
exactly what I was thinking. I remember seeing a little bit of a Professor Layton game, and I didn't know what the plot was, but at the time I didn't know that the games had a plot at all, because the only part of the game I only saw the game for like a second. But what I did see was the classic, like, you have a fox, a rabbit, and a carrot, and you need to cross the river, but could only hold two of them. Like that stuff. I'm like, how does this once I realized it was an actual plot, I'm like, how would that factor into it?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. When I played Layton, the puzzles themselves usually have nothing to do with the story.
Yeah, it's just like, we need gameplay here.
I will say that Virtue's Last Reward is better with that, because you're like trapped in a bunker, and all the rooms in the bunker deal with something that someone would have in the bunker, such as the crew quarters, the infirmary, a treatment center, a rec room. So they all have something to do with the location, but it's at times too, it does kind of feel like they have this many rooms just so they could have that many rooms. In a way.
Well, in a way, that reminds me of Danganronpa, where the school is just like, there's a third floor now, and it's got these insane rooms. Like, I know that the plot kind of tried to justify why the school was like that, but you don't really find that out until toward the end. So you're like, look at all these freaking rooms. Like, this is insane. Having
the pool on like the third floor doesn't really make sense when you think about it.
Yeah, and they got that whole like arboreum with a giant like Audrey 2 plant. It's like, what this is a school?
Yeah, so I mean, overall, like I said, the gameplay's fun because I like puzzle games and escape the room games. The overarching plot, I'm really interested in seeing like what's going on and who the killers are, who the villains are, let's say. But I feel like I could just skip all the dialogue and still know what's going on.
Actually, this is something I know you can't answer yet because you're not done with the game. Vyse maybe, but I don't even know if I want an answer for this. But Pyro, you'd mentioned that personalities just change depending what your choices are for some people. Like, now I'm going to be an asshole for the whole game, that kind of thing. I'm really like, I don't know anything about the game, but I really hope that it's not a case where, depending on your decisions, it turns out the other person was the killer. Like the plot.
Oh no, I think from what I've seen so far, there is one person or two people, let's say, that are the killers.
Like, no matter what.
No matter what.
Okay.
It's more like, here's an example. So, do you know about the AB game?
I don't think so.
Yes. The way it works is two people are in rooms, they can't see or talk to each other.
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
The way it goes is you can either choose to ally with them or betray them. If both players choose ally, you both get 2 points. But if one person picks betray, the person who picked ally loses 2 points, and the betrayer gets 3 points. And then if both people pick betray, they get nothing.
Right.
So it's one of those things where, like, obviously we'd both want to pick ally because we would both get 2 points. But if you're assuming, hey, Dan's going to pick ally, so I should pick betray because I'll get 3 points. And it's like selfish thinking like that in a way. So what really annoyed me is at one point you're choosing ally or betray, and let's say I choose ally, and the person in the other room picks betray. And they say to me, well, that makes sense. Like, why wouldn't I pick betray? That's the most logical choice, right? That's their personality, let's say. Then I go back in time to that same choice to pick the other option. I pick betray now. And they picked ally that time.
Yeah, that's...
And they're like mad as hell that I picked betray. And it's like, you just told me in another world that was the most logical choice. What are you doing?
The only way I could justify that is if they know what you would pick based on how you treated them earlier.
Well, I mean, that person I think could be one of the villains, let's say, but still, there are lots of times where the person in the other cell picks the opposite choice as you, and then gets mad at you when the other choice is picked. It makes sense to them, a choice that you made in the other world. It is confusing at times and annoying, and that's what's really jarring a little bit.
That makes me think of Silent Hill Origins, where the game has a good ending and a bad ending, and in the bad ending, it turns out that all the monsters you were killing the whole game were like people or something, and it's like, well, that's quite a difference. Like, the ending doesn't change, the whole game changed, and it's like, that seems like, why you don't need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, part of the thing I didn't like totally about 999 was that you have to go through every single version of the events in order to get the final ending, and it just seems like what is the real version of going through the story? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of cool that you could see kind of hints about what the real story is, but it just feels like a convoluted way of doing it. Not that I don't like these games, I do. It's just there's some design things about it that do hinder it. Like there's just going through the same visual novel a whole bunch of times to view different endings. It's just, I don't know. There could be a better way to do it, and there could be, I don't know. It could be more linear. I know that.
That's what I was
it's a
thinking.
linear story, so why not make it more linear? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like in design.
Like on one hand, I appreciate having a payoff for having checked every path, but on the other hand, it's like what you said, like, well, what led you to get to that ending? Because if it involved checking all the timelines, then that makes the whole game confusing. Like, I would prefer like Corpse Party, where there's a bunch of different endings, but they're all wrong endings. I could see that working out for something like 999. The only time I've ever seen the payoff ending, if you've played the game every way, really work is one of two scenarios. One, it's just like a bonus scene you get, regardless of what your playthrough would have been. Or, this kind of still falls into the bonus scene thing, but Eternal Darkness, where you get a bonus scene, but it turns out that even though you play the game through 3 different times with 3 different affinities for ancients, it turns out that, you know how the whole Lovecraftian thing is that these guys like transcend time and space. So like the super duper ancient actually took into account that you played the game 3 times and like through all 3 different timelines was able to take out all 3 of his opponents at the same time. Like that was a clever way of handling it. Like each playthrough was canon because we're transcending what humans can perceive. That was a really clever twist on it. But for 999, there's no way that's going to be a plot point.
Well, actually, interestingly, in Virtue's Last Reward, one of the reasons why you can go back in time is your character, I forget what they call it, but he has the ability, it talks about the parallel universes.
No kidding.
And when one of his selves dies, or whenever he chooses, he can jump between his different selves in the other universes.
Oh.
So like one universe he picked Ally, where the other universe he picked Betray, and he can jump between them at will.
That's interesting.
So there's parts of the story, like if you look at the flow diagram with all the options, there are sometimes locks where you can't continue until you have more information, which you'd find out through another parallel
that's cool
world. So that's actually really cool. And that's kind of why you have to play through it multiple times to actually get those good endings.
Well, that makes
more
sense.
sense in the second game than the
that makes sense because your character would actually understand what happened in the different timelines, where that's not going to happen in like 999 or something.
He can jump between dimensions, but as far as what they mentioned in game, he can only retain certain piece of information. So it's not like he saw the whole playthrough.
Oh,
you remember that whole thing? But still, it's a cool way of doing it. And the last thing I want to say before we move on is one thing that kind of irks me just a little bit is, so there's a giant door in the bunker that's basically your goal is to get out of that door. And basically anyone who has 9 points can open that door and leave. So during certain, I guess you could say, game over screens, someone else gets 9 points, opens the door, leaves, and they might say, I'm going to make sure to call the cops when I leave. And sorry that I had to, because the other thing is once the number 9 door opens once, that's it. So if I get 9 points and I leave, you guys, it doesn't matter how many points you get, you're never going to be able to leave.
Mm.
But the thing is, like, a lot of these characters will leave saying, I'm going to call the cops, but then it says game over. This is just a minor thing that bothers me, is they could have just had a question mark, game over question mark.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're saving you. Also, does that mean that they're the villains because they're not going to save you because it's game over? I think that the game over just being ... like that kind of makes it seem like it. I don't know. It feels like it should have been like a question mark just to say, is this the end? As far as you know, this is the end because you're trapped in here.
Yeah, it's a little thing, but it matters. Although, actually, regarding needing 9 points to leave, again, I don't think you could answer this at this point in your playthrough yet, but when you talked about the A-B game, where if both of you are allies and you both get 2 points, could theoretically multiple people hit 9 at the same time and leave?
Yes. Theoretically, if you have 9 points, you don't have to leave. You can wait for everyone else to get 9 points before you leave.
So it's just a matter of when the door opens. That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'm almost done with it, I think, but that's gonna be it for me. I've been playing those games basically all week. So Lotus Prince, how about you?
Okay. Well, it's been a very long time since I brought this up, but I actually got back into playing Yakuza 5 because I'd been doing a bunch of Rule of Rose before and House of the Dead stuff and Isaac. I just kind of fell off of Yakuza 5 after I got a little ways into Saijima's thing, and part of the reason for that was the last time I had played with Saijima, my goal was to effectively just grind away for food and drink, and that gets really tedious, so I was kind of like, eh. So I had mentioned that I'd gotten back into Yakuza 5 in a previous cast, and I had streamed a little bit of the grinding, and that was, a little fun to do, but it was really more of a backdrop to kind of interact with the chat than like actual, like, oh, so fun to watch him grind for restaurants, But but I played some more Yakuza 5 and actually did story stuff, and I beat Saijima's section, and this was really interesting. Yakuza 4 was the first game that introduced the concept of playing as multiple characters. Each character has their own chapter. Each chapter has 4 acts. So you play as Akiyama for chapter 1 of the game. Once you get through act 4, then you play as the next guy. Yakuza 5 did the same thing, and now I'm on the 3rd character. But the 3rd character, this is a first. You actually play as Haruka. She's been in every single game. I don't know how much you guys know about Yakuza, but she was basically the plot of Yakuza 1, where she was like...
She's the orphan girl?
Yeah, she was like something like 8 years old or something like that, and she has a tragic backstory. I'm not going to go too much into it, but basically she's looking for her mother, who was Kiryu's girlfriend, and Kiryu has no idea where she is because he just got out of a decade of jail time, so, you know, the world's changed. So he's like, I don't know, we'll try looking for your mom, I want to find her anyway. So a lot of the game is, you know, Haruka also is wearing her mother's locket, which has, I forgot exactly what it was, it might have been a code to a safe or something for like 10 billion yen, it was like an insane amount of money. So everyone who knows about Haruka is looking for her. So she gets captured like at least 3 times in the game. One time it's Majima, which has like nothing to do with the overall plot. He just grabbed Haruka because he knew you'd go looking for her because he wants to fight you, because that's how Majima rolls. But, and amusingly enough, a different character captured her because he also wanted revenge against you personally. Like, a surprising few amount of people captured Haruka for like the reason you should be capturing her, which is for the money. But like she was just getting captured like 100 times in the first game. In the second game, she gets captured, I forgot how many times, but at least once. You know, you got to save her from there.
She's old hat at this by this point.
It's seriously, because in the first game, she's like, oh my god, I'm captured. But like in the second game and onward, she really is. Like, it's just like, well, Kiryu's going to come save me. Like, I'm afraid of you, but we both know how this is going to go down. Like, it's actually kind of funny in that regard. In Yakuza 3, I don't remember if she was actually captured, but by this point, Kiryu had established an orphanage, and the orphanage itself was under attack, so everyone was in danger. In the 4th, I think, my memory's hazy on Haruka's relevance in the 4th game, but I think that might have been the only game where she just sits out of being captured. Maybe she was captured once. And she was, again, the plot, not that it's canon, but the plot of Dead Souls. Kiryu was drawn into Kamurocho because Haruka was captured. Again. So Yakuza 5, you freaking play as her, and it's like, oh, wow. Like, I don't know if she's going to get captured this game, but it's not going to be when I'm playing as her, so that's freaking amazing. So, like, oh my god. And it's interesting because her plot line, at least so far in the game, is that she wants to become a pop idol. So there's all, like, everything with her is, like, singing minigames and things related to the idol business. I thought that was a really cool little nod. I don't know if this was an intentional telegraph, but in the Yakuza games, you can go to karaoke places, and if you're dating, like you can sing, and if you're dating, then your date sings something, so it's interesting to see how that plays out, because you might interact with them if there's a duet or whatever. But
that's cool.
Yeah, but in Yakuza 3, though, it had nothing to do with the main game, but as a bonus when you beat it, I think, you have the option of going through, like, one song with Haruka at karaoke, and it's like, oh, turns out Haruka can sing. And now it's, like, a critical plot point. I was like, sweet. It was just amusing to me. What's funny is that Haruka runs around Kamurocho just like everybody else, but there are little things that she can't do. Like, if she goes to a hostess club, she'll just think to herself, nah, this isn't the kind of place I should be going to, and just, like, not go in. If you go to a bar, you can go in, but the bartender, like, refuses to serve you because you're, like, early to mid-teens. It's just kind of amusing.
You're underage, basically.
Yeah, because the drinking age in Japan is 20, but you're still a young kid. But what's funny, though, is that typical Yakuza gameplay involves random punks picking fights with you and you beat the crap out of them. But number one...
Does she sing them to death?
No, it's great because Haruka doesn't draw that kind of attention. But there are some people who have kind of heard of her. And so, on the map, there are people who are...
You're the damsel in distress?
No. So there are some people who are... Actually, the game is about you getting more and more popular as an idol. So eventually people do just know who you are. It's kind of cool. But,
neat.
But, like, when you're just randomly running around on the map, there are some people who you could see dancing by themselves. and they have icons over them indicating that you can talk to them and engage in dance battles. So outside of side missions, that's how you...
awesome.
Yeah, so outside of side missions, that's how you gain experience. Like, battles are entirely voluntary, and they're dance-offs. Like, when you talk to them, they're like, oh, you look like you want to dance, want to go? And even then, you have a yes or no option. It's pretty funny. So there's a lot of, like, a lot of Haruka's gameplay is kind of like mini-games in that regard. It's not brawling. So you're going through that. And what's interesting is that you're going through, like, there's, like, you know, drama and just creepy stuff in, like, the business. And what's interesting is that Haruka's encountering a little bit of that, but her manager, despite being absolutely fucking stone cold to most of her employers, like, she is intense. She really does appear to be looking out for Haruka's best interest. So, like, you know, this is a person that, like, your dance instructor, your choreographer guy, she always gives him, like, a hard time. Like, he had a year to train you, but now, whoops, there's a competition coming up in, like, a few days, so we're going to cut that down to 6 months, and this guy's getting stressed. So the last scene we've seen with him is he's just yelling at your manager, and your manager's like, you sure you want to talk to me that way? And the guy's like, I'll do whatever the hell I want. This is bullshit. And she's like, all right, fine. You're fired. You can leave now. And the guy's like, no, I don't think I can, because that's going to be breaching my contract. Are you sure that you want to do that? And she's like, what are you talking about? There's nothing about that in your contract. Your contract just says that if you can't deliver what I want, then not only can I fire you, but I don't have to pay you a damn thing. Maybe you should read your contract before signing them. And the guy's like, I did read my contract before wait a second. After I read my contract, just before signing, you said, let me change one little thing. That was a little thing, wasn't it? And she's like, yeah. Are you gonna stand here all day, or are you gonna leave? And I'm just like, holy shit. It's like, she's a fucking beast. But at the same time, though, she actually genuinely appears to care about Haruka. So, like,
wow.
We'll see where this goes, because, like, she kind of appears to be living vicariously through Haruka, because she had her chance to be an idol, but drama in her life prevented that from happening. But now she's like this hardcore manager, and Haruka's like this natural talent who obviously needs lessons. She's not just going to go up on stage on day one, but, like, she clearly has, like, what it takes, kind of. They mentioned she's one of, I think, the only person who didn't, like, quit from the incredibly rigorous training process they have over there. So a lot of Haruka's, like, bonus games are, like, handshake events where you're, like, just shaking hands with people. Like, it's kind of like, you know, autograph opportunities we would have in the States. And, like, dance competitions and stuff of that sort. So it's interesting to see how that plays out. I just finished Haruka's segment in the game, at least her first segment. I think she comes back one more time before the finale. But I just started playing as Akiyama, and I freaking love Akiyama. This is the last thing I'll mention about Yakuza before moving on, but he was introduced in Yakuza 4, and his whole thing is that he used to be a pretty well-to-do banker, but then real life, like, situations happened in his life and he got fired and was reduced to nothing. So then he was a homeless guy. And when, like, at the end of Yakuza 1, this building exploded and money fell everywhere, like in the Joker's parade in the Tim Burton Batman movie, he was one of those people who just happened to be there and was like, oh! So he grabbed a ton of money, and now he's, like, filthy stinking rich, except that he now understands that money can be fleeting. So he doesn't really have a value on money. Like, he works as, like, a basically a loan shark, except he's not a shark. Like, he'll lend you however the hell much money you need, no matter how ridiculously high, no questions, like, with no interest, as long as you pass some moral test that shows that you, quote, deserve it. So, but he's always, like, hesitant to go and actually collect the money when it's owed. His assistant has to chase him to do his own job, even though he's her boss. It's a really amusing relationship he has with her, and just with life in general. And also, he's a kicker. Like, Saejima, his maximum combo is, like, 4 hits, but each of them hurt a lot because he's so slow at winding up. Akiyama doesn't deal much damage per strike, but he'll do, like, a quick, like, 12-hit combo on you, like freaking Chun-Li. Like, he's a lot of fun to play as. So I look forward to getting to that point of the game. The other things I was just going to mention real quick are that I mentioned I streamed Yakuza. I've also started trying to stream a little more often. I did a Patreon stream for Sonic the Hedgehog 1, where I cheated like crazy to get all the emeralds by using like the level select and reset trick, because it is goddamn hard to get all 6 emeralds for real in that game.
It's really tough.
It's crazy hard because the levels are hard to even unlock the opportunity.
You basically need a map of them in order to get a good shot at it.
Yeah, you have 1 chance per act to even do a bonus stage, and you need 50 rings when you beat a level to do it.
And it gets progressively harder.
Yeah, and later in the game, you're just not going to do that. And then the levels themselves are crazy hard. So otherwise, I played the game legitimately, though. And then later on, I had a public stream of Ghouls N Ghosts for the Sega Genesis. So that took like a good 2 hours and 40 minutes to beat, because that game's also crazy hard. Thank God for Infinite Continues, though. But that was a lot of fun, getting through that game. Now I'm on record of having done it. Yes.
I wanted to ask you, how's the Patreon doing? How many people showed up?
For the patron stream, like I do stream at kind of weird times, like 10 or 11 p.m. So there were like the people who got in on that, there were like 3 or 4. The public stream had like closer to like mid to upper teens, I guess.
I would say that 3 to 4 for an initial effort.
It was a more.
You just started your Patreon.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool because it was like a more like intimate kind of conversation. Because I've seen people who have like insane amounts of subscribers, and like the chat kind of is its own entity at that point, where like they're having a great conversation with the chat, but like if you're concentrating on a game, it's really hard for you, the one who is streaming, to keep up with them at the same time. It's like a party
going on on the side.
Yeah, kind of.
While you're doing that.
So with only a couple people in on the stream, you get more of a chance to respond to them. Although, unless they have their own conversation striking up, there isn't quite as much to do. So for the Sonic thing, there wasn't much of a conversation within the stream going on. Whereas with Ghouls N Ghosts, there was, but I was only able to interact so many times because Ghouls N Ghosts is freaking hard.
I was gonna say it's like the difference between having a small close group of friends or tons of friends that you rarely see.
Yeah. And what's
the
also
thing is, it's hard with streaming because it's hard to respond to people in the middle of a game that requires lots of attention.
Well, no, not only that, but due to the nature of streaming, there's like a 10-second or so delay on YouTube. So if people want to talk to you at all, it's probably going to have to be Q&A format, because you can't keep up with them, because you're always going to respond quite a bit later. So you don't have like a one-to-one conversation opportunity. Like if you're typing through text, no problem. But when text pops up for you and you're like, what's your favorite color? And I'm immediately like, oh, blue. Like, they're not going to hear that until later. Like, I would have to type it out to be able to talk directly to the chat while it happens.
Blue, no yellow.
Yellow! And then yeah. But one thing was kind of funny was Old Man Stompy briefly showed up. Not briefly, but he briefly posted in the Ghouls N Ghosts stream. And it was kind of funny because he mentioned this to me yesterday being Saturday, at the time we're recording this, but he mentioned he wanted to start like just shit posting because like that's how he interacts with us, especially him and Mr. Ryu. They just like the shit on me because it's funny, and like I'm in on the joke, but the people in the chat don't really know Old Man Stompy, so he was considering saying stuff like, "Oh, you don't need to bother responding to my questions. I have the video on mute," and like stuff like that. But he actually held back because the chat wasn't really lending to that. The people were being like genuinely nice there, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to look like an asshole." So it was kind of funny. So like the fact that my viewers are so nice dissuaded trolling, even though it was lighthearted trolling, which is pretty cool. It was just really funny to me. So that's effectively been.
Did you end up beating Ghouls N Ghosts like you did when you were over my place?
Yeah, I did. I mean, like
nice.
Level 5, the last level before the super final boss, the first round of the game, the last level, I was stuck there for like a good 25, like 30 minutes. Like the first part of that with the armors was just such a pain in the ass. Ironically enough, I had a better time with it on the second playthrough, and it's not even because I got the Psycho Cannon. Like, I just had a better time with it the second time through. I only got the Psycho Cannon for the first time at like the very end where they give you like 3 chests in a row. So I don't know what that was all about, but that final boss is so cool. Like, I know...
I really like that version of the game, too. The Genesis version is really good.
Like, the bosses of the game generally have cool designs, but that final boss is just like, whoa! Like, they call him Loki, but bullshit. He's clearly the devil. Like, there's no way he's not. Like, look at him. This giant red guy in a crazy throne.
I think he's straight up Lucifer in Super Ghouls N Ghosts. I think he's straight up just called Lucifer.
I think Lucifer is the guy with the face on his stomach, and then like he breathes fire twice. I think that guy was Lucifer.
Like one of them's Lucifer, one of them's like Satan.
Yeah,
like,
I think the Sega one is Satan, although in America they call him Loki. Like, you're fooling anybody.
One's Beelzebub, one's Baal, or different.
They're all like different names for the devil.
Maybe it's Beelzebub then. I don't know, but like Loki. Like, you're not fooling anybody. So like the next time I stream, I want to see if I could do Sonic 2 because my Patreon stream was Sonic 1. I would like to continue that trend. Although the funny thing is, when I finally get to Sonic 3, I'm not beating that in a night. Like, that's gonna be like Donkey Kong Country or something, where it's like, see you next time on Sonic 3. You'd think Sonic would be super fast, but like Sonic 3 and Knuckles is pretty long.
I imagine you'll play like the complete version of the game with Knuckles. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And Sonic 2, I'm gonna try to beat completely legitimately. Because they give you a lot more opportunities to get emeralds. But Sonic 1, no freaking way.
You can get all of the emeralds in 2 in, like, the first couple levels.
The first couple acts of the first level. Yeah, like, the first level itself has, like, at least... or like 6...
4 signposts. Oh, okay.
Like Act 1 and 2 of Green Hill Zone, you can get, like, 5 or 6 emeralds if you really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, by late game, you're going to have just as much trouble getting emeralds as you would in, like, Sonic 1, but... if you're good at the bonus stages, you should have them way by then anyway. But I'll try doing it legitimately, and if I really can't, then at the end of the game, I'll just use the quick code to show you, here's how you do Super Sonic or whatever. But Sonic 3, you can replay levels as many times as you want, so that you like basically have to do that game legitimately, but it's the most doable, I think. Like, you don't have you don't have missable opportunities.
I can't wait until you stream Sonic from the N-Gage.
Oh, that was a game that existed. Oh, actually, though, you yourself never beat Sonic 3 and Knuckles, did you? Like, you beat Sonic 3, maybe, right?
I've beaten 1 and 2, but I've never gotten all the emeralds.
Yeah, no, you gotta, man.
But I've never beaten 3 at all.
Unless you do it yourself, you're gonna definitely want to look up the recording of 3, because like 3's final boss is so cool.
I've seen it before.
Okay.
I really like it a lot.
It's so good.
Yeah, I can't wait to play it because eventually I want to do what you did and beat them with all the emeralds.
Yeah, like Sonic 1, I don't think I'm ever going to beat that game completely legitimately, but beating the game at all is just like, that's an achievement. Scrap Brain is a pain in the ass, but Sonic 2, it did feel really good to beat that game legitimately for the first time, like, 2 years ago. Like, as a kid, I would always do the code for Super Sonic.
What's good is you can actually legitimately play Sonic 1 on iOS, the iOS version.
Yeah.
It allows you to go back and get like the emeralds.
That's kind of them. That's kind of them. Yeah.
So just so you know.
Nice.
I know you probably will never play that version of the game, but it's still cool that it exists.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's been my week. So how about you, Vyse?
I actually have had another really busy week. This entire month has been kind of tough on me, just in terms of just tons of stuff to do. So every one of these weeks, I missed Corrective Consciousness episode, was it 44 or 43?
43.
Yeah, 43 was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
I missed 43 because I had a state licensing exam for my work, and it ended up being a good thing that I missed it because I stayed off so I could study, and I ended up doing well on that one. Well, lo and behold, last one I didn't do well on, unfortunately. After doing the podcast last week, so it turned out to be a bad decision, and I have another one this week. on Wednesday. I had they were rapid fire.
So 2 bad decisions in a row.
No, I actually took tomorrow off.
Okay.
So I could study. I took it. It's kind of funny. I took off of work for work.
Yeah.
Because work isn't being accommodating enough in that regard, unfortunately. So I said to myself, I didn't want to embarrass myself again, and I wanted to pass it. Which, it's hardly embarrassing because I'm one of 2 people out of the 9 people in my group that actually passed any of them. So I still want to show up well and do a good job though. So I have another exam on this Wednesday, so I have a good feeling it'll be good. But I've had a couple of weddings. I'm sure we'll talk about those eventually. But I had a couple of weddings to go to this month as well. So I'm not going to have an easy or a time to rest really until Memorial Day weekend here. So it's been tough on me, and as a result, I haven't really done many things pertaining to the show really. But I did want to talk about a couple things, a couple interesting things. So you viewers may know that I've been collecting vinyl soundtracks of video games, and I recently got in a couple. I got Shinobi 3, which I was really happy to get. So I had been collecting all the Yuzo Koshiro ones. I finally got in Streets of Rage 1 and 2, and then Revenge of Shinobi. And then I said to myself, well, Data Discs is already making Shinobi 3. I should get that one, too, because the soundtrack, even though it's not Yuzo Koshiro, is quite awesome.
It's brilliant.
It's a really good soundtrack, and I'm a big fan of Genesis soundtracks in general. So I ended up getting that one, and it's just also cool to have Revenge of Shinobi and Shinobi 3 next to each other,
Now just get Shadow Dancer.
Yeah, I don't think nobody's that game has a lot less fanfare. Even though it's quite a good game, it's just a very early Genesis game, so I don't think it got as much attention as it deserves. So I don't suspect that one will be a full-fledged release. It may be part of a dual pack or something like that.
Yeah.
But along with Altered Beast or something, because Altered Beast was a very early game on the Genesis. I think it was a launch title.
Yeah, it was the first, I think.
Yeah. So I also got one that's been out of print for a long time. It was the Scott Pilgrim video game soundtrack. So I'm a huge fan of that video game in particular. It's like a combination of like so many different groups of people that make awesome things that I love on their own. Just to give you an idea, Paul Robertson does the animation and drawing and the pixel art for that game, and he's an awesome pixel artist. He did work on the Adventure Time video game. And he's known for making all these video game themed shorts that aren't video games but look like video games. One of them was called Pirate Cabana Baby Battle Royale, and it's awesome. Don't be fooled, it's really cool. It's set up like a beat 'em up game, but it's an animation. It's a video. It's really cool. The main characters do all these special moves and stuff, and another one of them, another video he made was this Kings of Power 2,000 billion% or something like that, and that was really fun too. And he's done a couple things. He's gotten a lot of notoriety in recent days, so he's been hired to do bumps for Adult Swim and things like that. You can immediately recognize his art style. And it was used really well for Scott Pilgrim, which I love the movie and the comics already. So that was that, and the soundtrack is phenomenal. It's by Anamanaguchi, who specialize in making songs that sound like they were made on in the 16-bit era, but also adding real instruments to the mix as well, including drums and guitars. And bass. So it's more like another instrument is the like the video game-y kind of stuff going on in the background, which is great. Well, the music in that game is phenomenal. It really captures the feel of 16-bit games while still adding those real instruments to it. The music in it is very reminiscent of Konami games in particular, like Turtles in Time. Quite a few of the songs sound like they would feel right at home in Turtles in Time.
Nice.
So I love that soundtrack, and I listen to it very frequently on my iPod. So I wanted to get the soundtrack, and it was released on vinyl before vinyl soundtracks got big again. Got big in probably like the last. They've gotten only big in the last 4 or 5 months. Pretty much as long as I've been into them. Like other people have started getting into collecting these things, and so some of the ones that were produced before this was a popular thing have gotten kind of hard to find. So Scott Pilgrim was released right around the same time as the video game was, which is right around when the movie was released, which is quite a few years ago now. So I was able to track a copy of that down, and it has a really cool record. The record itself. What's really cool about a lot of these soundtracks is they come with like custom vinyl. Like the actual vinyl itself is like a custom color or design, and this one has really awesome clear yellow vinyl, which is really neat. It looks nice and it plays great, sounds great. I had to pay a little bit of a premium. I paid around like $65 for it, but it was worth it for one of my favorite soundtracks. It fits the criteria of ones that of these vinyls that I want to collect. I wanted to make sure that when I'm buying these, I want to buy them for games that I like, number one, and soundtracks that I like. And I'm not buying them just to have them. I'm not buying them just to because it's part of a set or something like that.
Yeah, that's how I feel with the Transformers. I've stopped buying them for a little while, but when I started getting into them again, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy all of them because I have the money. I'm an adult. I'm going to just collect all the Transformers. But then I started thinking, I'm just going to buy the ones that I care about.
There you go.
So when they released the Headmasters, I'm like, I'm just going to buy the original Headmasters. I'm not going to buy all the new ones that they turned into Headmasters just so they could sell more, unless they're characters that I really like. It does help me to curb my purchases when I limit myself as to things that I'm actually interested in and not just collect them all.
Yeah, I've been like that about the certain things that I've been collecting recently. Like the amiibos that I've bought have only been amiibos of characters that I really enjoy, and a lot of them have specific purposes in the game in the games that they're in that make them cool to have. So I don't just buy every single one in a set. Like, I'm not going to buy all the Mario ones, or I'm not going to buy all the Smash Brothers ones. I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to buy them if the character means something to me, or has a specific function that in a certain game that I really like. So same thing applies here. So so far, I'm happy to say that I have pretty much all of the video game soundtrack vinyls that I've ever that I've kind of wanted. The only other one that is kind of outstanding is that Shatter soundtrack, and there were like only 1,000 made, and they released it in a time when this kind of thing wasn't popular. So therefore, I haven't even been able to find one on sale, let alone get priced out on it. Like, I just have no idea how much it would cost if it went up for sale. I tried tracking one down here or there, and it's not even on eBay or anything, and I can't find anything. So, I mean, I'm going to keep my eyes open. It might be one of those games. I absolutely love that soundtrack. It's like one of my top soundtracks of all time. Very high up on that list. But, it may be one of those things where it's rare, but I'm like the only person that wants it. That kind of thing. I'm kind of hoping for that. It's kind of like a lot of Dojin games, like the Ragnarok Battle Offline.
I love that game.
Yeah, it's a great game, but like nobody knows about it, right? Besides me and you. and like nobody's selling it. And then when it does, like, it's super rare because you can't get it anywhere. And it was like sold at like Comic-Con, that kind of thing. Like it was only sold at a convention in Japan. So there's like basically no market for it. So when it does pop up, like it still goes for pretty cheap. You could buy the expansions for like $15-20.
Yeah.
Probably close to their original price. But they're still rare, but there's no market for it. So I'm hoping that that's kind of the truth about that one, and it won't like run me $100 because there's no way I'm gonna buy it if it's that much. But I'm kind of hoping for it, so I'm gonna keep my eyes open. I did want to mention a couple other cool things that have gone on that were pretty fun. I went with my girlfriend to a farmer's market at the local town that I'm in. And we had a lot of fun doing that, and I've been getting a lot of local produce and things like that. So that was a cool side adventure that I did that I just wanted to mention that I had a lot of fun at. It's normally not my kind of thing, but doing it with a significant other is a lot more fun than you think it would be. It's not something I would ever do probably by myself because it's just, going to one of those things by yourself isn't nearly as much fun. But we had a blast. We had like this awesome ice cream sandwiches by a local place that had one of them was like a mint chocolate ice cream sandwich that like tasted like it had actual mint in it. Like it was like mint flavoring. So it was like really good. And another one was like a chocolate dipped strawberry one where it had like biscuits on the outside that were dipped in chocolate. And there was like strawberry jam in between two bars of ice cream. It was really, really good. So I wanted to mention that, and I also wanted to mention one quick thing. I have some tech purchases that I'm thinking about buying. I've been doing well at work, and I've gotten a really nice commission check this week. So I figure like with every commission check, I should treat myself to something because I worked hard for it. So I'm gonna save the majority of it, but I wanted to buy some nice things, like something to reward myself with. You know what I mean? And I get I get a commission check once a month, the second paycheck of every month. So. I think my next purchase is going to be an NVIDIA GeForce 1080 Ti. It's like one of the best graphics cards out there right now, and it's time for me to upgrade. I have a 770 right now. It's quite a few years old. It's about 4 or 5 years old at this point, and it's a great card still, but like it's starting to show its age. Quite a few of the newer games are chugging on pretty normal settings. So like Deus Ex, for instance, the newest Deus Ex has a lot of really nice graphical effects, but mine is kind of chugging. The one that Lotus has is actually a lot better equipped. You have a 1070.
Yes.
And I'm sure that game on that card would be amazing. But I want this 1080 Ti. Because I've been looking at it for a long time, and I don't have to buy... part of the thing was that you had to buy all the parts for your computer, so you couldn't go top the line on everything, right? Yeah. But, this is the only thing I have to buy for my computer. Everything else is still good. So, luckily, I just got a commission check. I could splurge a little bit and get one of the higher end ones. So, I'm excited to do that. And I've also been pricing out audio receivers because I was thinking about getting a surround sound system.
Oh, nice. So, and now that you have a place, you can actually like make a nice little system going there.
Yeah, I'm excited because it's something that I've been wanting to do, but like buying that kind of thing for my parents' place is fruitless because I'm gonna want gonna want to buy the speakers that make most sense in the space that I inhabit, and I knew that I was going to be moving out soon. So the things that I would have bought there might not fit the place I was going to move to. So I'm looking into this, but like audio file stuff, it like just is bonkers. Like I was looking at some of the receivers, and like the high end receivers are like $3,000, and that's insane. I'm even if I could afford that, I wouldn't want to buy one. You know what I mean? I know you can keep them for a long time and that kind of thing, but it's ridiculous. And I looked at the amount of channels that they have, and they do like 12 channels, and like nothing is mastered in 12 channels. Nothing like, and if there is, it's very small percentage of things are mastered to use 12 speakers individually. You know what I mean? So, I kind of was looking at the best receivers, like for the year, and you know they had like a $2,500 one on this list, and then a $1,500 one, and then the one that's in third place, you know, is a $400 one. I was like sold. Like I'll take that. Like the one that's in third place, like they're like, this is an awesome one. It does everything you'd want it to do. It just doesn't have like, you know, 12 channel. It has like 7.2, and 7.2 is the standard on Blu-ray releases. That's all I'm going to care about. So it's also the standard on video games. So it's the only thing I'm going to care about. Yeah, you know, like I don't want like an orchestra in my house. Like that. Well, that wasn't the point. It was to have a good cinematic and video game experience. So I think I'm going to go with that one, needless to say. So that might be a commission check down the line after I get the graphics card. Having said that, I do want to do a quick weigh-in. I've stayed the same. Once again, a crazy month for me, but I've been getting tired pretty quickly lately, and I think it's because of the amount of stress. I feel like if I was to start exercising again, it would help me out a lot. So this is something that I'm going to look into after Memorial Day, and I will report back.
Okay.
So having said that, we should move on to a question segment here.
Yep. I believe we could do one question. Eco Garden asks, why do you think that critics and the general audience can have very like so different opinions on games, movies, etc.? Personally, I would go, I would take the standard different people have different opinions, and then like,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
And then like shrink it down. You know, it's not like there are critics and then there's the rest of us. Like critics don't always agree. I mean, the whole thing with critics is you follow the ones that you feel cater to your interests. So like if a critic likes 5 movies that you like for the reasons you like them, at that point you can go, well, maybe that if the critic says this 6th movie is good, there's a good chance I'll like it. So like, does the critic I like agree with what everyone else likes? Do I agree with what everyone else does? It's not even really that simple. It's not even me and everyone else. Like, again, different people have different opinions. So like, you might hear about a critic you don't follow who disagrees with you, and you're like, well, that's why I don't follow that critic. You know, it's just a smaller version of everyone has their own tastes.
I think that's part of it, and also critics are also critiquing for an audience or what they think their audience will like as well. That's something that people don't really talk about when they talk about this kind of stuff. But reviewers review for a type of audience, not just themselves a lot of times. So they might have a terrible movie that they like personally, but they professionally have to decry it, you know, on paper, because they know that their reading audience won't like it the same way they do.
Yeah, you might have to give a little footnote, like, I liked it because of X, but you probably wouldn't like it because of everything but that.
Exactly. So, like, giving it a rating of, like, a C doesn't really do something like that justice, because it might be one of your favorite movies to watch because it's entertaining at an A level.
Yeah. Speaking of which, by the way, this is getting a little bit off topic, but that is exactly why I very much dislike a letter grade or a number of stars rating system, because
Sure.
it really doesn't tell you how a game is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the way I would like reviewers to review is, here's the stuff I liked, here's the stuff I don't like. Personally, I would watch this movie, but based on what I said, make your own decision, instead of scrolling to the bottom of the page and looking at the number and being a mindless drone and, like, missing something because the number wasn't as high enough as you would have liked. And this goes triple for video games, because unless a game is like a train wreck, like, a lot of reviewers are paid partly in review copies of games, and publishers might hold out on them if they don't give the game at least like a 7 or an 8 or something. So, like, every game on freaking planet Earth is like at least a 7 or an 8, and it's like that's another reason I hate that kind of system. It's like, how about just tell me what the game is like, and then I'll see if I should go from there.
I also I also would like to say that reviewers kind of are easily jaded as well, because they have to watch every movie that comes out, or they have to play every game that comes out, and they've probably seen a lot of certain tropes a lot, or may get annoyed by certain design decisions because they see them so often. But keep in mind that they see them far more often and can get burnt out on them way quicker than the average viewer or player of a game.
That's true.
So therefore, it may not be as much of a big deal to a lot of other people. There's also the fact that with video game reviewers, they have to cram a game in. They can't kind of sit back and enjoy it and play it like as time goes on and let it all sink in. They kind of have to cram that game in like a 2-day period, 3-day period. Even and they can get burnt out on an RPG, let's say, very easily, because they've been playing it for so long in a short amount of time. Whereas, the average viewer might be playing a game for a month. I mean, I played Skyward Sword for just about 2 months, which is a long time. A reviewer would never play a game for that long. So my perception is going to be, might be different because of that. There's also with movies, some movie and some music too. Some movies and some music don't get and food as well. I might add, all those things maybe not. You might not have a good sense of the character of something that was made there the first time you experience it. Watching a movie for the first time is way different than successive viewings, because you don't know to look for subtlety or foreshadowing or things that call to something later. You also don't know what's going to happen. Whereas a lot of really great movies like 2001: Space Odyssey, my favorite movie, is one of those movies where you have to watch it multiple times. And, a reviewer is taking it from the standpoint of seeing it once. And the way the average viewer is going to take a look at it. They might review it as a piece of garbage, an incomprehensible piece of garbage. And, they're not too far off from saying that it's incomprehensible. It's not garbage. It's far from the truth, because it's an extremely well made and intentional movie. But it just might be an experience that I don't know. I guess an experience that takes some warming up to, and so therefore it can't be a very accurate review.
Yeah, and I wanted to say too that another thing is we can all be critics if we want to. Mm-hmm. We just don't choose to become professional reviewers. Like anyone, if they want to, they could play a game, watch a movie, listen to music, and write up something on the internet and get their point out there. And the other thing is whether or not reviewers have to. I mean, I don't necessarily agree that reviewers will review a game or movie or whatever and say in the review the opposite of what they feel. I mean, if that is the case, I feel like that person shouldn't be reviewing games or shouldn't be working for that company. I think that in that sense, if I was being told to review a movie that I like and was told to give it a bad review, I'd say I'm just not going to review it. Give it to someone else, because that's not how I feel about it. But the other thing I want to say is that we all gravitate towards the reviews we want to see. So, I mean, I will admit that when I go on, let's say, GameFAQs to look at a game, and I'm like, this must be a really shitty game. Let me look at the reviews. I'm going to click on the bad reviews first to see which ones I agree with, instead of looking at the good reviews and say, oh, maybe this is actually a good game. Just like a lot of news that goes on, you look for the news that agrees with your preconceived notions. And I agree that I don't like the number scores or letter scores. And the way that, like, let's say Kotaku does it is really good, because they say, like, here's the good, here's the bad. And they have just a bunch of text about the review itself. They say that, I mean, obviously they want you to read the review, but if you don't want to review it, here's a summary of our points. We're not going to give it a score. We're not going to tell you whether you should play it or not. You look at what we liked about it, you look at what we didn't like about it, and you make your own decisions.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it comes down to in the end.
Yeah, I think we've hit the nail on the head with that.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, different people have different tastes, and like, yeah, Pyro just said, you gravitate toward the ones that you happen to like. I mean, it all comes back to stuff where, like, you know, The Thing was panned when it came out because, like, oh my god, it's so gratuitously violent. But, like, if you like those kinds of movies and you also appreciate the other things the movie was doing, if somebody points that stuff out, then you might see something in a different light. So, you know, who knows?
Yeah, and it's just looking at movies that, or watching games, or playing games that you don't think you'd like, and taking chances. And that's really the big thing. And realizing that the people who are reviewing games might have a different view as you because they like different things. I mean, that's the end of it. You don't need to be mad at someone because they like a game that you don't like, or don't like a game that you do like.
Although I actually would like to throw in one more thing regarding the professional reviewer watching like every movie or playing every game. There is something to that as well. They will come across things they're going to be ignorant of. Like, if you made me play like Madden 2016 or 2017, whatever, I don't know, whatever one's the latest one, I don't know how they're done in years in terms of whatever.
They're probably on 2018 already.
Would they be? Alright, so if you made me play the latest Madden game, right? At that point, with my review, I would do my best to try to talk about it in like the most basic form that I can understand. I'd be like, oh, the gameplay sure was engaging. You know, like the players look like the real people, I guess. But I'm not a football guy, so I'm gonna be missing out on all sorts of specific things that the target audience would probably have a better sense of. So like, there's a good chance that I might give a potentially inaccurate review because, like, you know, I don't like rom-coms. So I'll be like, I don't know, it was boring. It's not my thing. Like, I would try to speak a bit objectively, but I wouldn't be able to talk about it really intelligently, except for like the basic, here's what it does as a movie, here's what it does as a game, or something to that extent. So there's like also the possible, like, inevitable degree of ignorance that you're going to have about subjects you may not fully understand.
Yeah, like giving God Hand a 3, or
that is so embarrassing. Yeah,
giving Nier like I think Nier got like a 5 or 6.
Well, the guy redacted that, right? Because it was an objective mistake he made.
He couldn't read the map correctly.
Yeah, didn't he say like there was no map and there was one or something? He didn't know how to get it. Yeah,
it's like it's right here, stupid.
But at the same point, like, this person who gave God Hand a 3 or Nier a 6, who cares? That's their choice. I mean, it doesn't make the game any less for you, does it?
Well, yeah, but I've already played God Hand, so I already have a different opinion. Yeah. Like this stuff could potentially mislead people if it's done inaccurately.
But then at the same point, then you should give every game a high score because you want people to play it. This is their honest opinion about the game.
Well, no, but with God Hand, it was outright like there was outright inaccurate information though.
Okay.
Now, if they don't like the game, that's one thing. Like the Nier guy, he was like, "Oh, this is bullshit. There's no way to find out where you're going," and there totally is though. So he that guy went back and changed his review. He's like, "Oh, sorry. It turns out there was a map that actually changes my opinion." But with God Hand, they never did that. You know, they were like, "Oh, enemies spawn out of nowhere everywhere," and it's like, no, they don't.
Not to be an ass, but like, let's say that different people reviewed God Hand and Nier, and they were completely accurate with their descriptions, and they gave them a 3 or a 5. Let's say, would you be upset?
I would be a little upset, but I wouldn't tell them to change their scores if their reviews made sense. I'd be like, "Oh, it's too bad you don't like it." You know, I might be a little salty, but the God Hand thing was like not complete bullshit, but at least partial bullshit. And the Nier thing was like objectively false, at least for the map thing. I don't know about the rest of Nier.
Here's the thing about reviewing things, is that you also have to ignore some of your own personal biases, because it's skewing your perception of it for a general audience, or the audience that you're writing your review for. So, for instance, if I was told to review something like Sengoku Basara, which isn't my jam, but I know that a lot of people that like Dynasty Warriors type games would like, I would know that, what's good about this type of game. I would do research on that and what people like about it, and I would try to objectively, as best as I can, formulate that. Is this a good one of these type of games?
Yeah.
Like, not legitimately whether I like it or not. You take the information that you have available to
compare
you and
it to apples and apples instead of comparing apples and oranges.
Correct.
Yeah,
I'm not going to give it to a 3. This is the type of game I would never play again if nobody paid me for it.
Yeah.
But I will give it a score that reflects its craftsmanship.
That's the thing. It's like what I was saying about Rule of Rose. I would play the game. I played it. I talked about the story. Here's what I liked about it. But would I recommend you go out and buy it? Like, I really wouldn't. Like, I like the game, and I can understand a particular kind of audience that would like it. But for, like, a very mainstream perspective, like, it really caters to a very niche audience. So, like, that again, that's why I'm not doing scores. That's why I would say, here's the kind of person who would probably like this game. But if you're into, like, Mario, like, stay the hell away.
Yeah, and I would say that's what really separates good reviewers from bad reviewers, is ones who can separate their feelings towards the game itself with, like, what it's about, and who are able to compare it to similar games. And again, with the whole removing scores, is don't tell people this is a 5, this is a 7. Instead say, this is what I enjoy. Like, this is what the game is like. This is what I enjoyed. This is what I didn't enjoy. But hey, if you like these things I didn't enjoy, then this obviously is going to be a better game for you.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. If you say this game is an 8, then that means literally everyone will think that game is quite good, and that's not how it works. It never is.
Yeah, and that's why scores really. I know why they have to do it at times, but it kind of.
Yeah, it looks good when you're like 10 out of 10 stars or whatever, but like that's not how real life works.
Yeah. So, having said that, I think we gave a really good in-depth answer to that, and I would like to hear other people's opinions on that in the comments as well. So, having said that, that's the show for this week. Thank you for our fan there that contributed the question. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own in the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs up, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth show about this week in pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as VyseTheBold, VyseTheBold, on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, and Twitter.
And as for me, you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince, and on Twitter at Lotus Prince, all one word.
Oh, and your Patreon, too, now.
Yeah, that is true. I do have a Patreon account. So if you want to hit me up in that direction, then it's patreon.com/LotusPrince. Again, all one word.
I want to thank you all for giving my information a little bit last week. It makes me less salty that we're giving out Vyse's information when he's not staying up late with us. But again, you can find me wherever you see PyroJackFrost or Cloud08540. Feel free to talk to me, friend request me, whatever. I might not reply, but it doesn't hurt to try, does it?
And by the way, now that Old Man Stompy's been fired, you no longer need to bother looking for him at Old Man Stompy on various media where he wants to be found.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye, everyone.